In this video, I'd like to just shortly walk through the US listed stock MP Materials, which I presume most people watching this video will know that it's a rare earth mining stock. So, just in general terms, rare earth itself isn't that rare, but finding a concentration of rare earth that's actually economically viable to mine is relatively hard. The rare earth mining process itself requires quite a large amount of processing to be able to actually separate the rare earth from other unwanted ores. What you're left with at the end with the rare earth magnets or just the rare earth itself is a substance with strong magnetic and electrochemical properties, which is incredibly useful in an array of different technologies, electric vehicles being one of them, drones, wind turbines. So, for example, the wind turbines, they don't necessarily require a rare earth magnet. In this case, neodymium and praseodymium magnet, which is the main two rare earths that MP are mining. But without the rare earth magnet, you get a far less durable, efficient turbine that requires, weighs more, requires more energy to actually run. So for all these different use cases, the rare earth magnet offers a very large upside. If we look at the production and demand, so on the graph on the right here, we can see that up to about the mid 80s, production was dominated by the US. But around this mid 80s point, the Chinese government began heavily investing themselves into the rare earths, seeing the possibilities that rare earth magnets could give. And so from then on out, we've seen the industry largely dominated by China, and that's both the mining of the rare earth, but also all the downstream, being able to refine it, separate it. Yeah. So production is increasing considerably, but as we can see below, which is also from a podcast talk from MP, they're projecting a very large deficit in neodymium praseodymium, and so the conclusion is that this industry requires an extensive amount of outside investment to actually be able to meet consumption. So an example area of the rare earth industry, or where it gets used, is electric vehicles. So there's a very large push, both from the private sector, but also a large governmental push to get towards this electrification of society, and especially in terms of transport. And as we can see on this graph to the right, EVs, the future EV production is going to consume a massive amount of the production capacity that rare earth miners are able to deliver at this point, to the point where you're looking at 2035, EVs are going to would consume about 101% of the current annual neodymium praseodymium production. And this, remember, is just one area that's requiring these rare earth magnets. There are many other industries that to a similar degree, are requiring large amounts of rare earth. So if we look at MP Materials themselves, they've their sort of business plan is dealt up in 3 stages. So stage 1 is already complete, being able to mine, mill the rare earth. At this point, it's getting shipped down to China, where it will be separated and then subsequently sold. Stage 2, which should hopefully be completed by the end of this year, sounds like everything's going to plan. When stage 2 finishes, MP Materials will be able to, they won't have to send rare earth to China, they'll be able to separate it themselves, and this will obviously be a key stage in the development of MP Materials. Because really MP Materials, I see it as a stock that's sort of on a journey right now. It hasn't fully blossomed, and it's going to take some time for it to blossom. Namely, stage 3, I think, will be when it truly blooms. So at that point, you've got, as we can see here, potential downstream opportunity, which will be being able to create their own magnets, which they've got they're building a magnet facility in Texas as we speak, to hopefully by 2025 they'll be able to create these rare earth magnets, and then they'll have the whole, you can say, value chain, rare earth value chain, and they've already got some agreements with, for example, GM, an exclusive agreement with them to, by 2025, when they get this hopefully magnet facility up and running, that they'll be shipping magnets to GM. If we look at key figures, like, you are seeing triple-digit increases in, revenue, earnings. If we see here, product sales went from 59 million in 2021 to 166, and so you are seeing a growth rate that is really outstanding. Now this is helped along by the fact that the price of neodymium and rare earth in general has increased quite a lot over the last year or two. But yeah, I see stage 2 and stage 3 as catalysts for, being able to earn even more money, because the costs of having to ship, and like the logistics of having to ship all of their rare earth down to China, it makes it so much easier when you can do this on site. Yeah. And this is, you can see from 2020 to 2021, again, you see the product sales just jumping up considerably, earnings per share going up considerably. These aren't, MP Materials is a growth stock, hence why stuff like the PE ratio is quite high, especially compared to the mining industry in general. But when you're looking at how fast they're actually able to increase their numbers, it will quickly even out, and it looks really good. So competitor-wise, as I said, it's China dominated, especially China Rare Earth Holdings, which is sort of a mixture of these 3 large mining conglomerates that have gone together, plus 2 research institutes, and they account for 30 to 40% of the global rare earth supply. So from the Chinese government side, there's definitely an interest in combining resources of the Chinese mining companies into one, to just create one incredibly strong unit. Another competitor, significant competitor, is Lynas Rare Earth, which is based in Australia. but are separating or have their processing plant in Malaysia, so they're shipping it off from Australia over to Malaysia. But they have also got things going on in America. I have one news article here, which hopefully can get up on the screen, quickly show. If we look at the drawbacks and risks, I'd say the main drawbacks are associated with the completion of stage 2 and stage 3, if they're able to do that on time. This is part of their forward-looking statement. They've obviously got included what sort of risks they're associated with them. You know, some of these are maybe a bit, I wouldn't say outlandish, but stuff like potential power shortages, a mountain pass, you know, intellectual property rights. I'm not sure they're going to be a significant player, but stuff like unanticipated costs or delays associated with stage 2 and 3, you know, they can, especially short term, really impact the share price. But I've got to say, up until now, there really haven't been any delays. They've, you know, really actually been working unhindered, without any major issues, really. So yeah, it's been really good. So short-term assessment of the stock itself, I'd say is relatively unimportant versus the long-term pipeline. You see at the moment it's this is July the 19th, $29 US, a PE ratio of 28, which I believe the mining average is about half that, I think. And generally, not that I put too much weight into analyst ratings, but you know, it definitely seems that there is a consensus that MP Materials at the moment is quite a cheap stock, or not cheap, but that it is the price target definitely far below price target, and that it is in a buy range. And then at the end, I also have a short snippet from the All In podcast, where James Litinsky, the CEO, is speaking a bit. So yeah, thank you for watching this video. I hope it was helpful in some way or another.
I do think that as painful as the adjustment may be that we're now in this period that we're about to be in, with you know, some of the as the capital comes out of the growth space, there is going to be a big, beautiful bull market in real stuff. And it is just beginning, and I'll give some statistics with the besties. I don't want to ruin my besties' time, so I'm going to finish up real quick. But there's a lot of stuff that needs to get built, and this supply chain stuff is existential. And so what we're doing at MP, you can see our stage 1 we're doing. We just reported our quarter a couple weeks ago. We're now, from a site 4 years ago that I had to beg on the courthouse steps just to keep it alive, we're now doing approximately $450 million of run rate EBITDA today. So, you know, these, and then we announced a deal with GM. We're actually have already broken ground at a magnetics facility in Fort Worth, Texas, and this is a scale deal. It's non-exclusive. We expect to bring in other OEMs where we'll be making magnets. So we'll be shipping material that will be environmentally produced from Mountain Pass, California, over to our site in Fort Worth and make magnetics. And our goal is to build a Western magnetics champion.